Um, okay.
Hi, I'm Margaret.
Dakota.
Good to meet you. I hear you just got your license.
I did.
Awesome. Do you need a real estate office to be a part of? I normally wouldn't. Hey, Elizabeth? Is it one? Should be. It's not. One. That's what I thought. Oh.
Yeah, of course he did.
Oh, Charles.
Of course he did. So
Kevin
there's
doesn't
two.
understand casting.
Which one? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I mean, regardless,
He
you'll be
does
able
like
to.
those cables.
He
Yeah, that's the
does.
same.
He needs a cable. It's the shorter one. The longer one needs to go back to the conference room because he needed a long one. He didn't like the short one. It's true. It's what happens.
Why is this not working?
I might as well just take that out. Okay, go
Mhm.
for it.
Oh, I was just like, if something's been disconnected. That happens. All right, so. People can sit here, but we have to work with this video. The other camera's broken right now.
Which other camera?
There's another different camera.
Oh, okay.
So, this one.
That's fine.
So,
Well, as long as they
Mhm.
can. It's good.
that's why we put you there.
Laura, can you see me when I'm sitting here? And if Jody's sitting there?
Yep.
You guys are good? Okay.
Yep, we tried to move it over enough so you guys would be in the frame.
Looks
So there you go.
We are good. And then will you take some pictures? And is this being recorded?
Yes,
Okay, I didn't hear it come up.
it did. We're in here.
Of course not. All right, it's 12:30. It's time to go.
Yes.
So first of all, I want to welcome all of you. This feels really weird. To today's skills lab. Our goal with the skills lab is that you learn something new, you learn a new technique and something else that you can build into your business. And I am super stoked for this month, because we're going to do as close to a live listing consultation as you can do without it being at somebody's house. I know for me, I hear all the time, can I come shadow you? Can I come to your next listing consultation? Can you imagine if I took 10 or 5 or 20 of you out to a listing consultation, how uncomfortable that could be for the client? Let alone all of us, right? And so we've done this in the past. You can actually find one I did 2 years ago with Brittany Heckenberg. And you can watch the video of Brittany doing her live listing consultation. And it was about as real as this is going to be. Like the only thing that's not real is this is not my house. I'm going to set the stage right now. I really am not moving. I don't even remember where I said I was moving to. Oh, yes, I do. And have some fun, take some notes, sit back and enjoy, turn off the phones, get rid of the multitasking, right? One of the activities we did in one of the coaching groups Monday was we proved that multitasking cuts our productivity by how much? Over 30%. And so let's focus on this, learn what we can learn, and there will be an opportunity to ask questions afterwards. So if you've got questions, just write them down on a notepad or something like that. So I'm gonna set the stage. We are sitting now at my kitchen table. My realtor that I do not know, as you refer to me, has come in. She's already done the walkthrough, right? We've already done the walk. Okay, so I'm super excited to, first of all, for those of you that don't know, our listing agent today is my good friend and fellow productivity coach, Jody Dahl. Jody teaches up at our Foothills Market Centers. I think you and I are the longest 2 coaches in the state of Colorado. I don't know if that means it's old or that we're just both really good at what we do, or both. But anyway, not only is she a top coach, she and her husband also have one of the top teams in Keller Williams, Colorado. And your business is primarily listings, right? You don't run a lot of buyers around, right? So if you were to guess, how many listing consultations do you do a month, a year? What do you think?
Last year, I believe we did 93, and that was some phone consultations because people are out of state. And so a variation of in-home.
So you're doing on average 2+ listing consultations a week.
Yeah.
Cause you go on vacation once in a while.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so we're at the kitchen table. Is everybody set? All right, I don't remember where I'm moving. Oh, they can see me now.
They can see you now.
Hey, well, Margaret, thanks so much for the tour of your property. It's great to be here, and I just wanted to give this little gift.
Oh.
We love baking and decorating, and however, I'm not the best baker or decorator, so this is someone who's professional and made this, and so I hope you enjoy it.
So cute. Is there hot chocolate to go in a little mug? Wouldn't that be great?
No,
So hold on, so we gotta put this up in front of the camera so everybody can see it, then we'll hand it around.
So, I'd really like to kind of get started now that we've done a little tour of the property and kind of just go over a couple of things. And so, I prepared this, really, presentation for you
Okay,
based on kind of what we talked about. And I'm gonna take some notes while we talk and make sure that I have things clear about really what it is that you wanna do.
okay,
You know, why I'm here, if I can help you with what you'd like to do, and for a good match to work with. Okay? So I've pulled up some information about the flower circle. And, just confirming, right, we have 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, about 2,300 square feet.
yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah, great. So I wanted to look at some properties that were around yours. And I found that there's 4 active listings between 500 and 700,000. So this is kind of a range, but there's not much, but it's, you know, it's a decent amount of activity to look at. There's 6 pending, and you've had 5 properties closed in the last 30 days. Have you seen any, been inside any of the houses that have been on the market in the last 30 days?
No, I've really, been spending a lot of my time down in Arizona and trying to figure out what we're gonna do there.
Okay.
So I haven't really been paying attention on what's going on up here.
Okay. Well, okay, well, then let me tell you, we'll just talk a little bit more
Okay.
about the properties that have sold. The median days on market's been about 39 days on market before they get under contract. And so that's from the active date to the median close date. And so for the average close date, it's closer to 69. So days on market is up quite a bit. So I really wanted to talk about that expectation with you, that homes are not selling immediately, although a couple of the comps did sell kind of quickly. But there's also been properties that have sat for over 2 months. Is that something that you're comfortable with your
I'm
timeline?
surprised. I mean, I just remember hearing how, you know, houses were selling super fast and you put the sign in the yard and I'd be moving in a week or 2. So I guess I'm hearing that's not the case.
Well, and when we look at the comps that are in your neighborhood, you're gonna see the difference.
Okay,
Also just wanted to show you a couple things that I pull up on every property. I
okay.
go to homes.com, realtor.com, Zillow, and Redfin and RPR, and I look at what they think your estimate is.
What's RPR?
So good. It's just, it's a listing metric that I have access to through the Denver MLS.
Okay,
And so I look at all these different home sites and they come up with values. And so homes.com says the house is worth 620. RPR says 633. Realtor.com says something else. Now Redfin gives this range of over $100,000 or almost.
I like that number.
Yeah, I bet you do.
696 sounds kind of good.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I averaged what they gave the range. So Redfin has this huge range on their website that is really saying it's 640, 500. And so I average all those out and it really brings you down to 627, 193. How random is that number?
wow, not 94.
Nope.
Okay.
So I was curious as to what you thought your home was worth and if you had an idea of how you wanted to possibly list your house at which price.
Well, I mean, I wanna make as much money as we can. Because this is the last move, we wanna pay cash down in Arizona. And so when I apply the numbers, I'm really hoping my bottom dollar is 650, but honestly, I'd really like to push, that's why I'm super excited to see the 696. I was more in that 660, 670 range.
And how'd you come up with that number?
Just kind of, I mean, the house, you can tell we've done a ton of work to it. And when I just kind of look at some of the stuff that's been around, so when I add that plus what I've put into the house, it just feels like a good number.
I know, and a lot of times people think, you know, in building equity in their property, they think they get dollar for dollar of what they've invested into their home, they think they're gonna get out, and that's really not the case. It's really dependent on the market, and it does depend certainly on the improvements you've made, and you made great improvements on the house.
Okay.
And so I think that's going to prove worthwhile for you. However, it's interesting that I pulled this up, and the average of all of these sites is 627, and yet Homes.com has never been to your house, have they?
No,
Has anybody from Zillow been to your home?
no,
And has any resident agent come to your house to kind of put in this metric?
no.
And so they're really just working on data and analytics that they pull. And I'm not really sure how Redfin pulls that number because that's quite a range. It's not very specific at all. So I'd like for us to kind of look at some comps. And that kind of gives us a more realistic idea
Okay,
of what the market value of your home is today.
yeah, that 585 is not appropriate.
Yeah, and I didn't think so either. So, you know, what I really do is, I think like a buyer.
Okay,
A buyer is only seeing what's actively on the market. It's like when you go to the grocery store. You're not sure what sold last month, but you can see everything that's available to you right now. And that's what buyers are doing when they go shopping in the market today.
okay,
They see what's available to them. I look at this active comp, it's been on the market for 62 days. I think that's pretty important. It has one more bed than yours and one less bath, and it's smaller than yours considerably. And it's currently on the market at 659, over 2 months. Do you think that you're willing to wait 2 months to sell your house?
no, and I don't mind that 659 price. Cause like you said, right, bedrooms and bathrooms are maybe comparable, but they're so much smaller than I am, like 700, 800 square feet smaller.
Right.
So,
That makes a difference.
yeah, so I mean, if they think they can get 659, then maybe I can get my 675.
Well, they're thinking they can get 659, but it's been 2 months, and so what that means is all the buyers that are actively on the market in the last 2 months have rejected this property at this price. Nobody's saying that they wanna jump in and make an offer. Actually, nobody's even humoring them, right, because they're not under contract. They're not even getting bites under 659. So I think they really missed the mark on that. But I want us to keep that in mind.
Okay,
This is, right now, this is your active competition in the neighborhood.
I can
So
beat
it's-
them.
Yeah, and probably because your square footage is a little bit bigger. So I wanted us to look at this pending one. And what you'll notice is I'm always paying attention to days on market. That one was only on the market for 4 days.
Yeah, that's just around the corner.
So it is smaller than your property as well. It only has 2 beds, 2 baths. And it's listed at 500,000.
Yeah, they're missing 1,000 square
Mhm.
feet. We're not selling for 500.
So I called that agent.
Okay,
And out of curiosity, just had a little conversation with her about, you know, when her scheduled close date is. And so that will really prove to us kind of what happened and what the scenario is. They received multiple offers on this property.
do you know how much the offer is that they accepted?
You know, she wasn't willing to divulge that, and I would never do that as well. So I kind of respect her for not advertising that.
But if they got multiple offers, we could assume they've got more than that, right?
Yes, I would assume, yes.
Okay.
And so with this list price, even though I think that's considerably low, 500, considerably low, because your square footage in your bedrooms and bath are bigger than that. However, I went under contract in 4 days. And I'm going to imagine the seller is in the driver's seat about negotiations. This seller will be happy to take an offer
Mhm.
after being on the market 62 days. This one, down here, the pending, they had multiple offers. They got to pick and choose their terms.
Okay,
So just something to think about. Here's two solds that are right in your neighborhood as well. I can show you their average days on market. This one was on the market for 32 days. It's a 3-bed, 4-bath, so. And they listed at 615 and sold for 625.
oh yeah, that feels better. We got some room to go, but that's better, okay.
And so do you ever hear about COVID? And what happened in the real estate industry during COVID?
A little bit. Was that when like people were going stupid?
A little bit, yes.
Okay,
So properties were coming on the market and they were selling for 20, 50, 100, even more than $100,000 more than what they were listed for.
okay,
And so that was the piece, more than what they were listed for. So it wasn't like all these properties came on the market and they asked for 700,000 and they got 700,000. They all started at market value. And they let the buyers bring in these multiple bids and bid it up. And so then the buyers were responsible for that, especially when it came to an appraisal. You've owned this property for a while. When's the last time you had this property appraised?
when I bought it.
Okay. Alright. And so do you remember much about that?
No, it just happened and the lender said, here's how much the house is worth, we're good, let's hit this one place.
Right. And I think in your neighborhood, most likely you're gonna receive an offer where it's gonna be financed.
Probably.
You could get a cash offer, but I bet it's gonna be financed. And that lender needs the property to appraise.
Okay,
Yet if we have multiple buyers and they come in and they decide to write above list, the buyer is really responsible for making sure that we come in above that price. And so it becomes a negotiating piece. We want to really make sure we're at market value. And then if anybody decides to write you an offer over, that we'll negotiate that in the contract to make sure that they can bring that cash to close that difference.
Okay.
So having a finance property, it is important that we are able to appraise.
sure, that makes sense, okay.
So if you look at this other one on Flower, right down the street, it was only on the market for 11 days. It listed at $599 and it closed at $590.
And it's smaller.
It is small, so I think there's value for you in your house because it's more square footage, gives people a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah. That countertop's ugly, okay.
Yeah, you're telling me about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice, right? And because you made those updates, so I think it looks good. So any questions about the data that we're looking at in regards to?
Data's data, right? So Jody, where do you think we are price wise? What would you do?
Based on the data, and when I go back and I look at pulling up these search sites, because buyers will possibly look at this, and buyers agents are gonna look at this. So they're gonna make sure that the value's in your home.
Okay,
Buyers are pretty smart nowadays, they can see everything online, and that's mostly how buyers shop. When you're
Mhm.
shopping in Arizona, is that how you're shopping online?
oh yeah, that Redfin app is my best friend,
Great.
which is why I like their price.
Yes. Yes, and yet Redfin hasn't been in the house to see how it really compares to the properties that have actually sold. And really, a property's only worth what the buyer's willing to pay. And so that's why it's important that we look at the solds. And also why we look at the average days on market for this property that's sitting on the market and not going anywhere.
Okay,
So looks like your range is really somewhere between the comps, and I love to look at the starting price. I love that 615 starting price, because do you feel like this data based on bedrooms and house size is similar to yours?
you're still missing what, that's what, 1,845 square feet, and I'm at 2,300.
Mhm.
I mean, that's still another, what, 500 square feet, so, yeah, I think it's great that they sold at 6 1/4, and they're smaller than I am. So, yeah, so I think 650 to 670 sounds pretty good.
Well, I think that does sound good to you, but I'm not sure that's gonna sound good to a buyer. And so I have a little hesitancy about listing that home.
Okay,
Mhm.
so where would you start? What would you recommend?
I would probably start at the 625.
Wow, that's gonna change my net a little bit more than what I needed.
Mhm.
So, okay, so not to jump gears on you or anything, but, you know, one of the other things is how much is this gonna cost me to sell this house?
Mhm.
Like, if I can't get my purchase price, like, then what is my cost gonna look like so I can make up that difference?
Sure. Well, your purchase price is going to really be reflective of the market, right?
Okay,
And so, do you know much about our market and what's going on here today? In the Denver area?
the houses are still selling, I think there's more houses now than there were, cause I see a few more signs. Obviously, I see a few more signs in the neighborhood, but I mean, I don't have the level of details that you have. That's why you're here.
Yes. Great. Well, we have some pretty low inventory. However, we have still slow buyer activity. And we noticed that throughout our showings. And so we monitor showings in our office. And so we can see kind of on average kind of how things are going and how it fluctuates. And interest rates just jumped up last week in the last couple of days. And so interest rates impact buyers' purchase power, just like it's going to impact yours, except that you are going to be a cash buyer, and that's what you were hoping to be a cash buyer in Arizona. right?
Absolutely.
So that I understand that importance to you to be able to have that purchase power of being a cash offer. Okay, and so the interest rates impact how well you're going to get offers. The market, we're kind of almost in a balanced market right now. It's not really a seller's market, not really a buyer's market, so still kind of slow. Or right in the middle of balance, meaning average days on market is up,
Okay,
right? And so you could see they went under contract in 11 days, the pending one went under contract in 4 days. But that must mean there's a lot of other sold properties that were on the market for more than 39 days,
right, I don't wanna be that person.
right? And I don't want you to be either.
Okay, so you're thinking 625.
625 is a great starting point. You have flexibility around there. However, and we're gonna talk about a few improvements or what we're gonna do to get the property prepared to
Okay.
actually go on the market to make your photos look the best. So you look at photos online a lot?
Yeah, on that Redfin app, like, I'm always looking at the pictures.
Yes. Yeah, and your house looks fabulous as it is, but we're gonna make a couple other make a couple other changes. Just to highlight your property for the most buyers.
Okay, good, all right.
Couple other things I wanted to talk about that impact the saleability of your home.
Okay.
So we said the market, interest rates, your location. You're in a pretty great location, central to everything that Denver has to offer, into the foothills, downtown Denver. Great quiet neighborhood. And so your location, you think it's pretty good? Is that one of the reasons that you bought this house?
Oh, yeah, we love this neighborhood, right? We got park down that way, we got park up that way, so, yeah, it's just, I'm tired of being cold, so we're moving.
Yeah, I can understand that. Ready for some warmer days.
Yes,
Okay. So we have the location, interest rate, market, and then the two things that you have complete control over. You have complete control over the condition of your home, and you've made good investments over time. And then the purchase price or the list price.
okay,
And so the list price is one of the most important things. When you have set up a search in Arizona, can you tell me the basic criteria that you use to search for a home?
well, yeah, we're looking between, I mean, prices down there in the area we're looking at are small, are less than here, so we're looking between 475 and 575. And then just in that particular area that we think we wanna be in. And then obviously we just want a ranch home, because I don't wanna do stairs anymore, so that's pretty much, I mean, that's basic my criteria at this point. Then I flip through the pictures and go ugly, ugly, pretty, ugly, ugly, pretty, so I put little notes on the pretty ones.
Right. And we want to use all the pretty photos of your property.
Okay,
So we're gonna highlight all the best features going on the outside. Your backyard is great. We're gonna, the inside, we're probably not gonna have a shot of the utility room, and we're probably not gonna have a shot of the garage, even though I think your garage is pretty typical and normal. So we're gonna have all the best pictures highlighted online for buyers to look at.
Okay.
So just like you buyers are shopping in a certain neighborhood at a certain price point, and then they look at the pictures, right? And so we know that that's what you control too. We're gonna be able to control the photos of your property, and we're gonna be able to control the starting price.
I like the word starting price.
Okay.
That means that it's gonna go up, right?
And that depends on the market, and that's the hope.
Okay.
All right, right? If we come in too high, we know we could be sitting, and like we said, that's not where you wanna be. You wanna start off and have a little bit more leverage in negotiating once you
Right.
get the contract.
Yeah, I wanna get out of here before it gets really cold.
Colder than right now?
Yes. February and March are still coming.
Great, so I have some other things in here that relate to, you know, you and what's important to you. And, you know, ideally, you had mentioned that you love the area, but was there anything else that has been really spectacular for you to live in this house and this neighborhood?
Well, I mean, this neighborhood's great because we got the little pool that's like literally just around the corner. So when the kids were still around, they would go down there, and so that was really great for them. I mean, access to everything I need, we're just a few blocks off of Kipling. So everything is there, including the bowling alley. And so, yeah, I mean, the location is good, I like the style of the home, and I love the fact that I'm in this little cul-de-sac, right? And so, and the HOA does a really good job of taking care of the snow, so at least I don't have to do that.
Makes it easier for you.
Yep.
Yeah, good. So if money were no object and you could change anything about this property, what would you change?
Oh, I'd totally redo that basement.
Okay. And how come?
I would take where the washer and dryer is, the previous owners put that washer and dryer in an area that, to me, that should have been the wet bar. Right, cause they got an actual bar area there, and I'm like, that's too tall to fold clothes on, right? And so I would turn that into an entertainment center and put the washer and dryer somewhere else, or take that bar down and put it in a different part of the basement, so. Other than that, I mean, that was not our primary focus, we don't spend a lot of time down there, but if we were gonna stay, it could be. And then I'd make that a better entertainment space.
And that would have just made it like absolutely fantastic for you. Absolutely. Okay, well, that's so great. So when we have showings and our open houses, I'm here for every showing and for all the open houses. And so I love to help people as they walk through the house, explain the specific unique features of the property that maybe they can't tell just by walking through. And also maybe that a buyer's agent wouldn't know about the property. Not all buyer's agents study and understand every aspect of the house before they show it. But also, if anybody was to mention, maybe say, oh, you know, I don't know about the basement, I say, you know what, this is something that she would have pursued. This is a wet bar, so we can kind of talk creatively about what could have been and what could be. And so I think we have opportunity to have great conversations with potential buyers.
Okay.
Especially because I think people are gonna love what you loved about the house. And they might have some feedback about maybe what they didn't love as well.
I would understand if they blew up that basement,
Right.
right? So, yeah, okay.
Good. Great. So here's a couple things that I do different from other realtors. I do some reverse prospecting. And I know I do this differently because when I call agents about it, they ask me how I know they have a buyer interested in our property.
What's reverse prospect?
So through the Denver MLS, we have access to see which buyers agents have set their buyers on a search in your neighborhood around that price point.
Okay.
And so when you set your thing up in Redfin, you put in your specific parameters, that triggers into certain listings being sent to you.
Yes.
Same thing happens in our Denver MLS. And so what happens is I don't see a list of all the agents who have a buyer interested in your home. More importantly than that, I can see whose buyers hearted the property, really likes it, or put a light bulb by it, like, so they're kind of interested.
Okay.
And so I have that buyer's agent's phone number. And so after the first 2 weekends on the property or on the Denver MLS, I'll start calling. My hope is not to get to reverse prospecting, but with 39 days being the median days on market, that's something that could potentially happen. And so I spend time calling agents saying, hey, what's going on? Tell me if you have a really interested buyer, an active buyer, shopper. And my whole goal here is to set up showings and to
Okay.
get them into the house. Couple other things I do that's different from other agents is, we have a professional stager come in. Your house looks pretty good, but I'm still gonna have her come in and maybe just pick a couple things that might wanna change and get the picture set up so they're perfect. She really has the eye of the photographer in mind when she comes through.
Okay,
She might ask you to maybe pack a little bit of your closets and pack some of those boxes in the basement or in the garage.
okay,
And that's something you're gonna be doing anyways, you're packing to move, and so we're gonna start with all the seasonal clothes that you're not gonna use and things like that.
okay,
We use a professional photographer. On this property, we're probably going to do indoor and outdoor photos and drone photography.
okay.
So the staging is at my expense, and I also pay for the photography.
So do those photographers, I've seen some where they do like, it looks like it's nighttime, but do you do that too?
Depending, and with your property and the view out the back, I think that'd make for a really great shot.
Okay.
Is that something that's interesting to you?
I just always thought they were kind of fun.
You've seen that in Redfin Avenue.
I have.
Okay, yep, we'll definitely make sure that that is on the list.
Okay.
So again, I just wanted to kind of go back to the most important factors in selling your home. The condition, the price, what our current market is. And right now, our current market, I think it's warming up into the spring market. I think it's important to get on the market in this neighborhood specifically before April. My favorite time to list is end of February, beginning of March, because as inventory starts to ramp up, buyers have more options and more choices. And that's not always good for you to get top dollar on your property.
Do we have to wait till the end of February?
Absolutely not,
Okay,
no. I could be ready in a week. How soon do you think you could be ready?
yes, it depends on what you tell me I have to do.
Okay.
So back to that price thing, okay, so if we agree to do 625. I know a friend of mine just sold their house in Denver.
Mhm.
And she was talking about a rate buy down.
Mhm.
So does that impact the purchase price, or how does that work? Cause she was just telling me she needed to help the buyer, so that comes out of my pocket, right? Well, tell me about that.
That's so great, and she's telling you the truth. It doesn't impact the purchase price, but it impacts your net proceeds. And that's your bottom line, and that's what you need to have to move to Arizona,
Right.
right? And so we have seen that in the last 2 years. We've seen a lot of buyers come in with rate buy downs, and they're asking the seller to buy their interest rate down. I just told you it was over 7. And so buyers are asking sellers to buy the rate down for 2 years, like a 2-1 buy down. That moves that interest rate down to 5. Point whatever for the first year, 6 point whatever for the second year, and then back to 7. And then a lot of buyers are hoping they can refinance. So the way to negate that is to list right at market, maybe a little bit below, to bring in as many potential buyers as possible. Remember I said you can leverage multiple offers, you can leverage those buyers to where you're in the driver's seat.
Okay.
If you have multiple buyers, because if you have 2 offers, we can negate that 2-1 buy down, for sure.
Okay. Do you know how much that costs?
It is gonna cost, actually, I don't know exactly.
Okay.
of the loan amount. Anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000, so 2.5% of the loan amount, you know, and so.
So that's kind of like selling my house
For
from
us,
625 to 600.
now that would be quite extreme, but
Okay,
yes,
610,
so listing your property at market value,
okay,
again, which goes back to pretty close to right here where I found them, but they're not exact. Redfin, he's way too low and way too high, right?
still like that 696.
And
Okay.
of course you would. And I would love to sell your property for $696. If I thought it was possible, I would tell you.
Okay, so you're really thinking 625? Okay.
Absolutely.
All
And
right.
the sooner the better, and like I said, I think inventory really starts to increase in end of March. It's gonna progressively increase but you wanna be gone anyways by the summer, you're ready for a summer heat in Arizona.
Yes, please.
Alright. Any other questions about that rate buy down?
I'm still trying to understand what my costs are gonna be, but I'm thinking,
Typically, you can think your cost to sell the property is gonna be less than 1%. Once you add in compensation for the broker into the overall cost, it's probably gonna be around 3%. And so have you heard about the NAR settlement that happened last August?
oh, that's the one where I don't have to pay the buyer's agents anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
Okay.
Yes, and again, depending on how we list your property, Who's out in the window?
I have to stay in character. Okay,
So,
I charge 3%. And 3% is inclusive of all the services we provide, and we don't offer any discount services. Because I think the best way to sell your property is to take care of all of these items.
okay,
So you might meet some other agents who are gonna offer you discounted rates. They're gonna offer you discounted services, and I don't know if that's the best way to sell your house in this market. If it was 2020, I don't even know if you'd need a real estate agent. You just put your property on Zillow and it would have sold itself during COVID. But this is a completely different market, and I think you need all these pieces to make everything come together.
okay. So 3% plus that buy down thing. Okay,
I would like to avoid the buy down, and the rate buy down is not happening with every single offer.
okay,
A buyer might come in and ask for that, and a buyer might also come in and ask for you to pay for their buyer's agent. Even though in our settlement had, where they really wanted sellers to pay their agents and buyers to pay their agents. However, in every single offer that I've received so far, since August, I've seen that buyer compensation requested of the seller.
so I can anticipate that I'm gonna be paying you your 3%, and then what, they want 3% too? So it's really 6%?
Historically, it's been about 2.8% to a buyer's agent. However,
Okay.
our average that we've seen since August is down to 2.5. So you can see anywhere from 2% realistically up to 2.8. It's
Okay.
really up to you and for you to determine what the overall offer looks like. And that's what I'd like to present to any buyers that come through your property. So on every listing I've had, I have at least one agent call me and say, hey, is your seller offering compensation? Are they gonna pay me? What are they offering? And what I like to say is, you know, my seller's considering paying compensation, but they'd like to see an offer and what the overall offer is going to look like. If someone came in and offered you 600,000 and also asked for you to pay for their rate buy down, I think that's something we would negotiate, especially in the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, 600 doesn't sound attractive at all.
And in this market, with your little competition and you being bigger than the property that's the active one on the market, I think you have great opportunity there.
Okay,
So realistically, you could be looking around 5% total of the
Okay.
purchase price.
got it, okay,
And that's one of the things that we're gonna discuss when we receive an offer. And the majority of the real buyers for this property are gonna come out in the first 2 weeks. Everyone after that is either new to the market or they're waiting for you to have a price drop. But I think if we price that property at market value, it gives you great opportunity to elicit offers in the first 2 weeks, which helps you maintain a full price offer
okay,
and a competitive stance to where you don't have to pay a rate buy down.
okay,
You also get to negotiate what you're gonna pay that buyer's agent. If we have 2 offers, you can get to kind of pick and choose what you'd like to have out of those offers.
okay,
Just like that property that went under contract and it listed for 615 and sold for 625. They had to have received an offer that was more than the 615. And I bet there were other terms in that contract that were favorable to the seller too.
okay,
And this is gonna be something that's, you can use this information as you move to Arizona. And when you have purchase power down there, and the properties that you're looking at.
okay. So Okay, well, keep going, I have a question, but you keep going.
I'm gonna leave this folder with you, and it has a whole bunch of ideas in there, how to prepare your home to sell. What our process looks like, from this moment until you close, and.
Okay.
Do you think you're gonna be needing a post-closing occupancy agreement?
That's what my question was. So if you sell my house in 4 days, I can't be ready to go in 4 days because
Right,
I don't have my house yet.
right.
So where am I don't want to be homeless, Jody.
We'll make you homeless. And so typically in the offers, once you're under contract, it's about a 30-day close, 30 maybe to 40 days.
Okay.
If you do not have a property that you found in Arizona and you want to make a smooth transition, we can ask for a post-closing occupancy. And we can ask for 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
Something to consider though is if we wanted to ask for top dollar for your house to avoid any rate buy down, to avoid paying a buyer's agent compensation of 2.8%. And you want to have all those a little bit lower or none at all. And we want to ask for post-closing occupancy because that's pretty important to you. You might want to consider listing a little bit lower than 625. When you have a list of all these things you want to ask for, it's hard for us to negotiate that right up front with just one offer. But if we can get multiple buyers intrigued with your property enough to write an offer, then you are in the driver's seat and you can ask for all of it. You can ask for a 30-day post-closing occupancy agreement. You can ask for no rate buy down, that you're not gonna offer that. And you can offer to pay a buyer agent less than 2.8%.
So when you say post-closing, so that means I get my money and then I get to stay in the house?
You close, you stay in the house for 30 more days, you're gonna rent back from the buyer. And so they might have rental terms in there.
Okay.
A couple years ago, everybody was getting free rent back.
Oh, I like that.
And I haven't seen much free rent back, and I know that was nice, but most often we're looking at having a rent back with a security deposit. Just like if you're renting the property, but it gives you the time that you need to find that replacement property in Arizona.
Okay.
And move once, not twice.
That's good. Moving forward. Okay. All right.
Any other questions about that timeline?
Nope. I don't think so.
So we have a media marketing plan that we do online through social media. And we also send and reach out to other Keller Williams agents in the Denver area. And we send marketing emails to that and to out of state. And we are looking at some buyers through Keller Williams agents moving here from Utah, Texas, Florida, and California.
Oh, okay.
Every week I'll send you a market update. My hope is really that instead of the market update, we're talking about the offer we received and we're moving forward with the process of being under contract. But until then, I give you an update every Monday.
Okay.
So you know exactly where we're going. This talks a little bit about how buyers are finding properties. And it's very similar to how you are looking for a property in Arizona.
The internet. Okay.
We have an open house strategy. We really have this great timeline. We like to prepare the property so it is perfectly ready to go on the market.
Okay.
So the staging, the photography, house is clean. We like to do a coming soon for a week. And that coming soon is really a test. So we put the property out coming soon. We do this a couple reasons. One is every buyer that has a search set up, they're gonna get an email for coming soon from their agent. And it's gonna be a your listing. I hope that entices them. That's the neighborhood they wanted to be in. They're gonna see the value because it has 3 bedrooms and the square footage is bigger and better. So they're gonna be enticed by that. Our hope is that we get calls for people to see the property while we're coming soon for that week. Although we don't have time to do that week. Then once we activate your property and it turns to an active status, then we can start showing the property. However, we're looking to get and drum up as much interest as possible.
Okay.
In the market. And everybody that is interested in the property, we want to push them right into the open house. And so we'll probably call coming soon on a Friday, turn it active to the next Thursday, and start showings in our open house on this Saturday.
Oh, okay.
So we want to push everybody together. Do you remember hearing about the friends with cabbage patch babies during Christmas? Do you remember that years ago?
Yes, I was thankful I didn't have children then.
We wanna kind of create that environment of where everybody's shopping for the same thing. We want everybody to be walking through that open house within that same 2 hour period. And so it just creates a little bit of tension and excitement, and people are excited to see your house. And they are threatened by other people who might purchase it and want to write an offer to them. So we try to keep this competitive mentality.
Okay, because everybody wants to win.
Everybody always wants to win.
Okay, interesting. So we don't allow showings for a week.
5 days.
Okay,
We're really trying to drum up interest and hold people off to come. Now, typically, this is what I get an agent who calls me and says, my client's going out of town this weekend and they can't come in to see the house, can we get in early? And so I ask them and I let them, well, tell me about your buyer, how long you've been working with them? Because sometimes we have agents who just buy leads and they have somebody who they have never been out, we don't even know if they're qualified.
okay,
And so if anybody was to try to get in to see it early, we're gonna make sure that they're pre-qualified, that the buyer's vetted them, the buyer's agent has vetted them, and that this is really the neighborhood that they're really looking for. They're comfortable with the stairs that are in the home and the other features, that this is not a brand new home, it's gonna be a little bit older and have those unique qualities to it.
okay,
If that's the case, if I feel like there's someone who's really a great fit, we're gonna have them, I'm gonna call you and see if that's okay for us to show. Because the property's already gonna be ready to go, it's just really up to you. I have to change the status to active in the MLS.
the minute we let them in.
Yep.
Does that impact our frenzy?
Well, we're still gonna have the open house,
Okay,
and I'm gonna be there with the buyer, and we're gonna be walking around, I'm gonna talk to them and tell them the 3 great things about your property.
okay,
Talk about you a little bit, we have a 7-step showing process. So we're gonna go through that with them, and at the end, when they're getting ready to leave, I say, so, I know that you've been looking in the area for a while, what do you think about the property? So I'm gonna get feedback right then and there. And if they do look interested, I say, well, you look like you're interested, and I'm talking to them and their agent too at the same time.
okay,
And, so it looks like you're pretty interested in the property, are you, considering an offer? And see what they say. And if their agent, tells me right then, yep, I think they wanna write an offer. And say that's great, we're still having our open house on Saturday, and so we'll be accepting offers on Sunday. It would take quite a bit of a conversation for us to have if they really wanted to present an offer to you beforehand. And we would tell them it had to be pretty significant, that you're really excited about the open house, and we're still looking to have that great build up.
so what's the 7-step process that you just mentioned?
We vet the buyer and their agent on the phone to make sure it's a good fit, so we don't wanna have you displaced out of the house every day for 2 hours every day as we do showings here and there. We wanna try to push everything together, that open house. If we need to have a 3-hour window because we've had so much interest, we'll open it up. And we'll definitely coordinate everything with you to make sure it sort of fits with your schedule, your
Okay.
life. And you have a dog, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we wanna make it easy on you and your pet.
Okay.
And so we vet them on the phone, if they're a good fit, we meet them at the property. We're gonna hand them the details about your home, and so I'm gonna be asking a lot of detailed information, like what are the utilities, what's your HOA? Other things that are of interest to specifically to your property.
Okay,
We're gonna tell them the 3 most important aspects of your home that they couldn't just normally tell by walking around. And so I'm probably gonna share one of the stories that you told me about the house and a little bit about you to kind of personalize you.
Okay.
Make this human, try to make them feel like they're just not negotiating against some seller. We really wanna make this a personal experience for them to feel really comfortable at the house. We asked about the feedback, how the house compares to other properties, and if they're considering an offer.
okay, easy,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah. So we go in a little in depth with that open house, probably a little bit more than just putting out open house signs and baking some cookies and letting anybody just walk through. So we try to really.
no cookies with nuts because we have allergies.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't bake, I like to realign it. So, we won't be using your oven or anything like
Okay.
that. And we'll be.
I don't even know if it works, so you're safe.
Yeah.
Okay,
So just a little bit of a history about us and some of the sales that we've had throughout the years. Kind of a little bit more of a timeline that might be useful for you as you start preparing and packing and getting the house ready and thinking about what are you gonna really take to Arizona. Some other things about, you know, some of your subscriptions, your credit cards, the bills you receive here at the house, and what that transition will really look like. As we
Okay.
get closer. Little bit of experience about us, and you can read this later. I'm partnered with my husband, and so and I also just hired someone new to my team. And so you're always gonna have one of us at your house, being able to lock up the property, turn off the lights, make sure that nobody uses your toilet, make sure that everybody takes off their shoes, and really makes this nice when you come back home. Your house is as you left it.
still one.
Okay. Yeah, so we've got a great team. Bottom line is that it sounds like you would really like to have the most money possible out of this house you could buy cash in Arizona.
That's what it's all about.
That you move your things one time, have some time here to make that transition.
Yep.
And true. I know that's what we can partner with you to make happen. Okay. I brought a few other things. Do you have any questions about what we talked about?
I just have one. So you said your fee was 3%. Is there any, can we do it for like 2?
We're really solid at 3 with the services that we provide.
You don't ask, it's always no.
And I totally agree, and I think, you know, it's worth it, it's worth it, always ask.
So where I have more negotiation isn't as much with you, but with what I pay the buyer's agent, which at this point, my goal is to pay them a big fat. Anyway,
The big fat 0. And, you know, and there is that opportunity, like I said, most often it's been 2.5% this year. However, we've had some of our sellers pay 2%, and the buyers ended up paying their own agent the other remaining
Okay.
compensation.
okay,
And so realistically, we'll be talking about what opportunities you have as contracts are presented to us.
okay. All right, what else you got?
I brought a seller's advisory information for you about how you sell your property. This is something that we're given as realtors to our sellers. And then I brought a contract. This is a contract for somebody else. But here's a contract that I wrote that really goes over the details of what we're gonna be selling, what's included, what's excluded in the property, determining the purchase price or the list price. And today, our whole goal is not to determine the list price. Because if you decide you're not ready to come on the market for 3 weeks, we're gonna reevaluate what's going on. We're gonna look and see when that property sold. We're gonna see if anything new came to market.
Maybe it'll get to 650.
That would be magical.
Okay,
We'll see.
all right.
And so I brought some marketing materials. This is a brochure that we have created for one of our other listings. So it'll be very similar to yours. We'll put all the best pictures in there. And then on the back, only for people that come to showings, will they get those detailed features about your utilities and other things that are specific. to
Got
them.
it. Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
So when would you like to get started? And Liz, you had mentioned that you're ready to be in Arizona sooner than later. And so ideally, when would you like to be on the market?
Tomorrow. You said a week, right?
Yes.
Well, let's figure out what we need to do.
Okay, great. I can schedule to have my stager come over in the next 3 days. That works for you.
Perfect.
Good?
All right. Right. Okay.
Nice job.
There. Quite a few people.
Yeah.
I don't know which Casey that is.
That's my
Michelle Lewis must be from the mountain towns.
Yeah.
All right. So I wasn't horrible to her, was I?
No.
And funny, and I would do. Yeah, you're entertaining. I would.
Well, I
do-
do have to make this entertaining so that you'll stay with me.
Yeah, I would do it a little different. Ideally, I would email my listing presentation to her. I don't really want to talk about a listing presentation. I would have emailed it to you yesterday when I showed up to your house and we did the tour. I would have asked, did you receive my listing presentation I emailed to you the other day? And then, great, because I really want to ask her, did you have any questions about it? And she would say yes. And then I would say, well, you know what, great, I brought some contracts because I think that's really gonna hammer out all the details that you want. So I really want to go in and actually tour the house and then go over the contracts.
So how many of you are like going, I want to see what's in that notebook? How many of you are like, well, I want to see what's in her notebook? Anybody?
Me, for sure.
Go to command. Literally, it is the command listing presentation that she has printed out in this notebook. So, and I didn't know that that's what she did, right? But she's using the materials that you all have already available to you, that all you have to do is slap your name on it and use the pages that you choose to use.
I did recognize the one with the pie chart of how people were looking for their houses, and I always describe that as, this is the Captain Obvious page. And this shows you that most people are, you know, buying their house, and I always have my phone with me, and I'm like, are looking at it on this, and I loved some of your, I wrote down exactly how you asked her how she's searching, and she basically told you exactly what you wanted to hear for them. Well, this is why I go into this sort of pricing strategy, and that, so I thought that was genius.
Did you notice when I kept pushing on pricing what she did? She did what? She kind of deflected, but what did she really do on pricing of the home, this price of the home?
They gave you more information
Yes.
about how you price. it.
Self-discovery. Yeah.
Yeah, and asked what you wanted, like, she put it more on you instead of giving you the price right away.
She never really did give me the price.
Yeah.
By the way, the price she came up with was the price I listed that house at, and we went under contract in 6 days.
It's
Right?
25.
Yeah.
Right, so. But the reality, the joy of having Redfin say it was $696, it gave me the opportunity to continue to push her, and I didn't let it go. And she didn't cave. Right? What were your observations when we talked about pricing, costs?
I'm sorry, I just have to say, I wrote this down on the pricing. I love where you said that buyers rejected this property at this price. I
Yes.
was like, that is a great way to say it. I have not thought about saying it that way. I always say, like, you know, nobody's come forward, you know, I always talk about a ready, willing, and able buyer. That they couldn't capture the ready, willing, and able buyer, but I love it so much more simply, that the market, the buyers rejected that price. Yeah, and it makes people go, oh, I don't wanna be rejected.
Exactly, right, it's that mental game,
Yes.
nobody wants to be
Love.
rejected,
Right.
right? Love that, okay? What about when I pushed her on costs? What'd you notice?
She stood firm on her cost, her value.
Boy, she didn't go to commissions right away either, did she?
No, she pushed you off on that. Let's talk about this first.
I love when you said that one, because all of these services are important to sell your house at top value, and you were like, that's your priority, right? And you were like, yeah, and like, well, this is what it takes. And I love that you stuck to that. I love that you said there will be other people that will offer you discounts, but they will do less services, and I think this is what you need to get done. That makes people, you get that little question in their head of when somebody's like, you don't need to do that, like everybody's like, you don't need to do that, you don't need to do that. Yeah, you do.
Well, Zoomland, what'd you take away? What did you observe?
I just had a question for a different role play. Like say if Margaret said that she wanted to speak with another agent, or if she wanted to wait and just wait and take some time and think about the contract, how would Joy go about that?
Okay, let's do it. So Jody, you know, I'm not sure, you know, I've got appointments with a couple of other people, some chick named Amanda. And I really feel like I need to meet with her before I make a decision.
You know, and I can absolutely respect that, and I'm just curious, was there anything that we didn't cover in this that you're looking to get from Amanda?
Well, what you gave me was pretty comprehensive, but it may, I mean, I've been here for 20 years, so I haven't sold a house for a long, long time, and so I don't know what I don't know. And so I just kind of feel like, I already had the appointment with her, so I feel like I should meet with her.
And I can respect that, right? Trying to see what's best for you, right? And what's gonna help you get what you want. And I can absolutely respect that. While thinking about that, is there something that you thought maybe we didn't discuss today that we should have?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, we talked about the list price. I mean, you've got around 625 is what you're recommending. I'd like to see what her thoughts are, because I know, she sells more expensive homes, so she might be able to get me a higher price. So I'd like to hear what she thinks pricing wise, but I don't really know. Like I said, I don't know what I don't know.
If I told you that I thought we could sell your house for $650, do you think you'd list with me today?
Oh, that's a tough question. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think I would.
If I told you I could sell your house for $675, would you list with me today?
Well, probably not, because this says that I'm probably dreaming to get 675.
Right. I mean, if I went into every listing presentation, I feel like I have an idea of what the seller really wants. And I get it from looking on all these websites, because usually these are a little high.
Right.
And my goal is not just to win this listing with you because I told you the number you want to hear.
Right.
I think I have the best program to sell your property, to get you to Arizona.
You do have a good strategy, Jody. So how do I call that Amanda girl?
You know what? Actually, I know Amanda, and I could call her for you.
Oh, you'll break up with her for me? Done. Okay, we had a little bit of fun with that, but part of that was pretty real, eh? Did that help?
You know what? And actually, I just want to say too, I've gone on appointments and other agents in my office went on the appointment. We didn't know about it until later. And the seller called us and said, will you guys work together? And I was like, of course. This was Sally Ball.
Of course.
And because they were like, we can't decide between the two of you, and you're out of the same office. And we didn't go with that Remax person. We're like, all right, we'll do it.
It's a win.
Yep.
It's a win, we'll take it.
And I have co-listed with other agents. When I went on a listing for like a horse property or something, that's not what I do. So I name dropped Sally Ball. And said, look, now that I've been to your property and I see what you've got, I really want to bring in our land agent. She was the top land agent in the nation for Keller Williams 3 years ago. And she knows her stuff. She knows the value of fencing. She knows she knows the name of all of these structures.
We took Sally out and we had friends of ours that have a horse property that we're gonna
Yes.
hopefully at some point co-list together. And we're viewing the barn and Sally's like, so how many bales of hay does the barn hold? And I was like, it never would have occurred to me in a million years to ask that question and to understand the value that it provides.
Well, and I think that brings up a very good point, right? Is that stay in your swim lanes, right? If you are selling residential property down in the metro and you start getting involved in acreages and barns and fencing and all of that type of stuff, you are so far out of your league. It's going to cost you more than either partnering with somebody who does that or just straight up referring it, right? We can get you through septic, we can get you through wells, right? We've got the experience for that, but you start getting into some of those other properties, stay in your swim lanes, guys. I know, especially when you're newer, all you wanna do is say yes to everything because you want the almighty sale and the compensation check that goes with it. But how much does it cost you if you fail and you make a really big mistake? Right? I think are you best serving the client playing outside of where you know what to do?
Cause I wanna win no matter what, and I will name drop, anybody to get the listing. I've co-listed with Sally 3 times. Because I don't know what a pond is worth. I don't know what water is worth, and I don't even know how she finds some of the information she finds about water rights. And I don't care either, I don't wanna know, I just wanna sell residential houses.
Awesome. All right, other questions, observations? Jeff is very like studious up there. Nicole is smiling big time.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Jody, you said that, so with your listing agreement, when you are talking about the buyer's compensation, what do you put in your actual listing agreement? Do you put the total, like, because you said that you don't, I guess it was 0% for the buyer agent, but then that's negotiable? How does that work? Sorry.
I really hate what I said about the whole compensation. So don't use any of that.
Okay. Okay.
That line. Yeah, don't consider any of that. So what I would really do is, I say, when I fill out the contract, I fill out the first section, and for training's sake and for coaching, I put in 3%. And then when it says what I'm offering to the other side, or actually it's what the seller is gonna offer, I'm not offering
The
anything.
seller's offering.
The seller is offering, I put to be determined, unless I went on an appointment, last year, and they said, we're gonna offer 2.5. I said, great, great, this is easy. And I said, would you like me to let people know when they ask me that you're offering 2.5%, or do you want me to say, you know what, they are offering a compensation, I'd love to see what you put in the offer. And they'd love to see the offer overall. And so I write in there to be determined, I write the whole thing out, or I put in what they tell me that they're willing to pay. Now, that doesn't mean anything, because that buyer's agent's gonna ask for whatever they want, and whatever they wrote in their offer. So, and that's what I tell them most likely, I don't know what their offer is gonna look like. Right, we're gonna ask for $625 for a 35-day close and a 1-month post-closing occupancy. But that buyer's agent is gonna write whatever they want.
And there's different theories. And so first of all, I need to put this out here because we have different people from different brokerages in the room and on the Zoom. Every number that we give here is example only, is not realistic. Negotiations are always negotiable in all terms. Okay, they're what my legal check wants. Okay, so, but there's different theories on how to handle even the buyer agent compensation with your sellers. Right? So Jody's approach is very much in this example that she gave us today. We're gonna lock down what I do and let's wait and see what they do, because Margaret, the bottom line is so super important to you. Now, other people that I coach with and I work with a lot, it's, well, buyer agent compensation, we can go a couple of different directions. What we're currently seeing in the marketplace is that over 95% of the offers that we're seeing come through our offices today, the seller is continuing to pay the buyer's agent co-op just like they have for years and years and years. What that amount is varies. It's still very competitive, and it tends to range between X and Y. You can choose to not offer anything upfront at all, knowing that you're probably going to have to capture that into your costs when we get to negotiating the contract. Or we can use that as a marketing tool today and offer it up front, so that way they already know that you're willing and to play in that arena. And you could put in the actual amount, right? And you could put in that competitive 2.5% to 3%, whatever the seller wants to do. Because that's part of the marketing. You can use part of that marketing, right? And we can't advertise it in the MLS, But I don't know, can you send emails to all the brokers on reverse prospecting, telling them what the seller is offering,
Yeah.
buyer agent compensation?
Sure can.
You sure can, we've done it, we've seen what it does.
I've measured it.
You have, and your open rate went through the roof.
Open
Right.
rate went up, so we do all of our reverse prospecting emails through MailChimp. So that we can see if the agent has opened it, we're able to see if they've opened it multiple times, which is interesting. We, after the NAR settlement went into place, we decided to start playing with that a little bit, like, you know, with what's in the subject line, will it make people open the emails? So we let it with, you know, 2.8% compensation, or, you know, we phrased it in really nice, you know, attractive ways with emojis and all that kind of stuff. And our open rate went up 20%.
I think that's huge.
And that's for, you know, because now, and I do have a question when we have a chance, I wanted to ask you about, reverse prospecting and why you wait 2 weeks to start reverse prospecting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's finish this one
Yeah.
first, and then we will grab that one, I'm sorry. So there's different ways, Casey, to handle the buyer agent compensation question. And then, you know, then there's other ways, right? Like, and I'll pick on Amanda because she's here, and again, we got another top producing in the agent in here learning, as well. And so, you know, a lot of the clientele you work choose to offer a minimum of 2%. And then it's written in the listing agreement, they're willing to consider more based on the overall price terms of the contract. And so when the buyer's agents call, that's the conversation. They're offering 2%. They're open to whatever your buyer wants to present, depending on what the overall terms of the contract are. So the beauty of where we are today is that I think it actually puts us more I think we're more transparent now than we were before, because it's not all just, this is the number, right? It's a very open-ended conversation. The other thing that I will still continue to talk to sellers about it, although I don't think down here, like on my list, by the way, this was my last listing, for those of you that held it open. We never had a single buyer's agent call and ask me what the compensation is. However, I think there's agents out there that still are, and I think it's going to tend to be the ones when you're dealing with those lower priced starter homes, right? Because who are the buyers there? The buyers who are barely scraping together the 3 to 4% down payment and adding another 2.5 to 3% in commissions could pull them out of the market.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the conversations I will have with my sellers, especially in that arena, in the luxury arena, I'm probably not having it as much. But in those starter homes where your buyer is most likely strapped for cash, I'm probably gonna say to the seller, look, we could be limiting our buyer pool by not offering, and may I explain to you what that means? And then I'm going to go down these buyers are cash strapped, and they may say to their agent, I need you to find out up front if they're offering anything, and if they're not, I don't wanna see the house. And I have worked with those buyers, right? And so, again, understanding the different ways to have those conversations and present that in your consultation with your sellers is super important, because it might be different depending on who's sitting across the table.
You know, last year we had a listing for 360 and a listing at 2.45 million. So we're talking about very different properties. One is freaking fantastic, out of sight. The other is not. And it's distressed, and you know, I'm looking at the property and I'm thinking, we're gonna have issues. We're not gonna be able to get FHA or VA on this property. And so understanding the financial terms, and I love what you said, and depending on what listing I'm at, we might be looking at just cash buyers. And if we have just cash buyers, then they probably can afford to pay their own agent. But they still are still gonna try to work it into an offer possibly. And so it just really depends. And so we really assess each listing differently. Once we're there, we see what are our terms, what are our options, how big is our buyer pool? So the 2.45 million, that buyer pool is like this big.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's tiny, and that, so I told them average days on market, this is what it is, it was whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, 200 and what in the mountains, whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, we have a pool, it's
I remember that. Were we driving to Albuquerque when that one was happening? Oh, yeah. Car.
Was Jody stressing? No.
Yes. We're in the car and talking to the seller's, the daughter who's selling it for her parents, but her brother's a realtor in California.
Oh,
She's like,
gosh.
can he be on the call too? And I was like, oh my.
Margaret. I was like, oh my God. No, we didn't pull out the side of the road.
Yes.
It's too stressful.
It's been, so,
And she handled it like a champ. Okay, other questions? I love these questions. You guys got good stuff coming to us, so keep going.
the reverse prospecting.
Oh, yes.
I wait because that's desperation, I think, calling too soon. Hey, how's it going? I noticed that your buyer hasn't seen our property and we've been on the market for 2 weeks.
But do you email them, like, so like when we do reverse prospecting,
Mhm.
like when we hit the market on like a Thursday.
Mhm.
The goal is to have the email with the details about the property go out to those people. It lets them know when we're having an open house. It includes the link to all of our assets, because again, we also send that email to all of our referral partners where we find people are coming from, because one of the things we tell our sellers is the reason that we invest the extra money in the floor plan, the 3D tour, the video walkthrough is because the majority of our buyers have been coming from out of state and we want to be able to show them that property. So we include, we have a couple of different email lists that go out, but we do that pretty much day one. If I do see that anybody has hearted or light bulbed it, I do usually flip them a text message and say, hey, John, just Amanda, noticed that your clients hearted my listing in Candelas, wanted to let you know we're having an open house this weekend. Let me know if there's anything I can do to be helpful. And just leave it at that. I usually won't call them unless I'm starting to get desperate. But I also feel like very few of my actual buyers, to be honest, in this room have ever actually come from that list.
Totally true, totally agree.
Yeah.
Not on the list.
Yeah. But totally something that people love to hear you mention.
My job is to get
Yes.
showings.
Yes.
And so, and I have triggered showings off of reverse
Okay.
prospecting, because that's the only way I gotta get a foot in the door, and that's the only way to get an offer. And you're right.
And I think there's different ways to use it, right?
Yeah.
In your way, your
That-
reverse
and she
prospecting.
explained, like, that made sense for me now, that's about picking up the phone and having that personal phone call, that outreach relationship. What I'm doing, starting with an email, is something totally different,
Yep.
so that's why I was like, okay, I wanna ask more about that.
If you're really announcing a new product to the market,
Correct.
you're saying, hey, dum, you're not seeing that your buyers
Yeah.
are hearting my property, why aren't you doing your job? Like,
I haven't picked them
like,
out,
two
yeah.
totally different messages.
Yes,
But the beauty of it is they still continue to create excitement and energy around what's happening, right?
Right.
When you create energy around properties, magic happens.
And I wanna work, and so I would love it if somebody called me and said, hey, your client part of this property, and I'd be like, what?
How did I miss that? Yeah.
And I wanna work, I wanna show a property.
Great. Not all of them do. All right, what else we got? Questions, observations, ahas?
I just got one more question.
Go ahead, Lee.
Sorry.
Then we'll take care.
Like say when you run the comps and the around the properties, and then you go in the house and you see they got different upgrades that are better than the comps. How do you have like a formula to calculate those upgrades? Like say you got marble flooring or different countertops and stuff like that.
We usually have an idea, not seeing Margaret's property and actually already knowing what it sold for. I feel like it's unfair and weird. For me to be doing that. However, I have a range in mind, based on the comps we pulled, because you haven't seen the property. And so so we just did this on Sunday. We're driving in the neighborhood and there's like Hillbilly USA on the left, and it's a yellow house. And I was like, and there's another house that's kind of an eyesore for the neighborhood. And so for me, that dropped it down a little bit. And then we got to the house is fantastic, it's spot on, he's done a really good job, and it looked great, and I thought there was an advantage to the mountain flat lot. Sure. So I felt like that bumped it kind of back up, and so it just put it right back in the range. So our range just adjusts based on when I really see the house. And that's why we tell people, they're like, well, what do you think our house is worth over the phone? And I'm like, I can never tell you. I mean, you could go to Zillow, just go to Zillow or go to Redfin actually, because they give you a better range.
Yeah, it's only $100,000 difference. Here would be my answer to your question, Lee. Part of that is, and unfortunately, we can never mock this up perfectly, right? But a lot of it is going through that pre-listing questionnaire with the sellers before you go out to the home, right? So when did you purchase the home? What upgrades have you made since you purchased the home? If we were selling my real house, I bought it in 2022. If we were gonna put that on the market today and you ask that question, you'd be able to really quickly figure out what my house is worth and never step foot into it. This particular seller had been in the house for a much longer period of time. So it's tell me about the upgrades you've made, tell me about your kitchen. Like I will ask, what are your countertops? What are your flooring? Right, all of that stuff, because I know if they start telling me they remodeled the kitchen 4 years ago and they put in quartz or stone, I get a pretty good idea. Right, and then it's about going out and previewing homes and previewing homes and previewing homes, so you can make those on the spot gut adjustments. And here's the thing, you don't have to give me the price at the first time if you've never seen my house before. So if Jody walked into my house with this beautiful presentation and went, oh, crap. Either way, right? Oh, this is so much better than she shared, or so much worse than she shared. I don't want to talk about pricing. That book, first of all, wouldn't get left behind. And she would have flipped that so that I never got to see those pages. And then she would have come back to me and she would have said something, and I love this one. You know what? Now that I've seen your property, we can run through the comps. Like she still could have ran through the comps, but then she could say, let me go home, let me go back to my office and sharpen my pencil. And either let me come back or let's jump on a call and let's finalize the numbers. So you can always do a 2-step approach or a 1-step approach depending on where you want to be, right? Did that help answer your question? Okay, Karen.
I have a few, so just short ones, but so this book, do you leave that with the client? You create that and leave it with them?
Yeah.
You mentioned you're here for every showing.
Yep.
So you go to every time another realtor goes. Is that, like, I'm just wondering, like, is that what most? I don't think I've ever seen it.
So we're working mostly in mountain properties. They're totally unique. You don't know where the well is, you don't know where the septic is, you don't know anything about these little.
Oh, right, so you're
You're people that answer all those questions. And then we got some houses that got some weird things in them too. And so I'm gonna explain that. I want the buyer to really be able to decide right then and there.
So you're in the mountains then? Like evergreen or?
Evergreen, yeah, so pine, conifer.
Okay.
So we have a listing in Morrison right now. So the thing I'm talking about is pushing all those showings together is also so I can do my job.
Right.
I can't go here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, back there. I cannot do that, and I'm not gonna do that. And my client doesn't wanna have their house shown every day, 9, 4, 3, all over the mess. So
So when you put it in broker, or in. the
I
showing,
totally
you kind of
create
block
broker
out.
bay to fit my structure, especially if anybody has a dog, and up there, everybody has a dog. You can start to get the dog out, cats, one place I have to leave the cats.
Yeah.
Because she can't take them. I mean, it's coordinating animals and little kids. If it's just an adult, you could do anything, or a vacant property. But I'm coordinating around people's lives. And I probably could have done a little bit better job. I mean, once we got started and I was like, I really didn't love, there's so many things I could have done a little bit better and said differently that I wish I had with you. But I want to.
You did great.
I think what's nice about that too is that the client can say, okay, so I just need to mentally prepare that on this day and this day. These are the days when people might see the house and they can.
Yeah. Well, because when you're there touring the property, you can see whether they have dogs, kittens, cats, whatever they have.
Right.
And so you can speak to that. And look, I want to minimize this impact on you. It's already going to be stressful enough you moving.
Yeah, I don't like that. I've heard, right, we've had people come in, present staging, etc., but when someone comes in for a consult, Is there, like, do they have just like a flat fee for that kind of thing? I mean,
For a
I think
staging
they're all
consult?
different, but.
I have two stagers. One, I have a stager for if somebody lives there. Then I have a different stager for vacant properties. And so depending on the property I've seen, like I'll tell my stager, you're really there to make the pack of the ground,
Right.
right? Like,
You get to be bad guy.
yeah, and she's like, okay. And then, so it is so property specific. It just always depends.
Okay.
And there are some stagers that have been into the market center. Their cards and flyers are over there by the mailboxes, where you can grab their contact information and call and talk to them. Buy them coffee or have them buy you coffee and understand what they do and what part of staging they excel at. Right? So I love the fact that you have two. You have one that's really good at, you're the bad guy, you're the one who gets to deliver the hard messages. You tell them how to pack their crap and then you come in and tweak. Where you have the other stager who give me the blank canvas and I'll just bring everything in and I'll make it look gorgeous. Right? And some people like Stacy can do both of those things. Right? Nikki can do both of those things, right? But not all of them can. Right? So finding those stagers and then also finding the stagers that you click with. Right? Some of them want to come in and turn it into, turn a $500,000 home into $1 million home and charge you a ridiculous amount of money. Don't let them do that.
Right.
Right? It doesn't have to have a tchotchke on every shelf.
So I pay for staging, I pay for the stager regardless, but whether it's a house that's lived in or like this vacant house, I just pay a ton for. And
It's crazy.
but this is the best way to do it. It's the best way, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, we have a house that somebody in our neighborhood that was listed, it was listed too high. I think they originally listed it like 165. It was not staged. When you got there, it was dirty. I mean, it doesn't matter that you have beautiful ports, this, that, and the other thing in a beautiful basement. If the house is dirty and it looks like crap, it's not worth 1 point whatever or 600, people want to feel emotionally compelled to buy that house. We staged that house, oh my God, I don't even wanna talk about that staging bill, but we're under contract at full price. No buy down, though I've seen so many buy downs, and it just, you have to figure out what makes sense for you, what makes sense for the property. And I mean, the thing is, if it's $1 million and above and you're not staging it, then you're not doing your sub-client any service.
I think that's true even though below $1 million.
I think every house benefits from some sort of staging.
We did an open house 2 weeks ago. And the house it was a large house. And
Right,
it was
completely empty.
completely unstaged. We had to bring our own table and chairs in to do the open house. And it just didn't feel warm. Like all I kept doing was going and pumping up the temperature. And the reality was if you had any kind of furniture in there,
Soft furnishings.
let me ask you this, when you all hear the word home, what are some adjectives that you think of when you hear the word home? Cozy,
Warm,
warm, what else?
inviting.
Inviting, what else?
Coffee.
Coffee, cookies.
Like you wanna stay, Prosecco.
Yes, and yes, you wanna stay, right? You want people to visualize themselves
Living there.
in their living room, right? I always know we got them when they start placing the Christmas tree. Oh my God, the Christmas tree would look great from that window. Yeah. Right? But if you and your seller don't partner together, that's the word, partner together to create that feeling and you present a home cold and sterile, who's gonna stay and feel all the words that you guys just gave me? Right? And so those are things to think about. And I loved how you, like when I asked her if she would reduce her rate and she was just like, I mean, I wish some of you.
Pretty firm.
There wasn't enough of you sitting behind me, but I basically got the 4-letter word no look. She was just finding the right way to say no. Right? And it was a non-negotiable for her, right? To use some of the words that you guys are using with me this year. This is non-negotiable. For her, her marketing package, including those things, is non-negotiable. And that's why you're selling how many homes a year? A lot.
I
Okay,
have another one.
okay,
Did somebody under?
no, I was just.
Got a question back there.
It's okay, you can go. I'll let Arden go. Go ahead, Arden. Have you ever had anyone push back on staging?
Staging?
Yeah, like a seller saying, no, I'd rather not do that.
I had the house staged and, I'm not there for when the photographer comes sometimes, but now I'm getting pretty controlling and I need to be there. Because when I saw the pictures, she had moved stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, so now I tell them, so I do staging one day, photos the next day, and I try to be there. Just to make sure the toilet seat's down, because that irritates me, and that photographer's not gonna push that seat down. And, you know, so if she moved it, I'll just say, look, you can move all this stuff after we do photos, you can put all your crap back on the counter, you know, your coffee, everything that has to be all up there. But just for the photos, it has to be this way, and, so I have had a little issue. And I've got somebody else right now who's quite feisty, and they're like, well, this isn't how we live. Well, and so having hard conversations about people, well, you don't want to live here anymore. That's why, you know, we want you to pack up, and you're gonna pack out all your favorite things, which are, you know, those copper pots from that were really cool like 100 years ago. And we're gonna pack those up and just, we're trying to make it that home as appealing as possible to as many buyers as possible. We want them to start envisioning themselves here and maybe not your stuff, which is why all personal photos have to go down. Almost all your crosses have to go down, you know, there's got a wall of crosses and like, pick your favorite one and let's get it situated up there, maybe, or, you know, a few. And my stager can kind of arrange it so it's not the whole wall.
So I tell people, I tell people I go the worst practicing Catholic girl. I go, but if it's religious, it's dead, or it's political or personal, we're going to take it down.
Yeah.
All of it. We're going to take it down. And I had a lady, I'll never forget her, Nancy Glaze, bless her heart, she's a Texas girl. And she had floor to ceiling on a curved stairwell. Like you think about a grand house with a beautiful stairwell, the whole stairwell was crosses. And there had to have been 150. And we were like, so I was like, I love Jesus too. The crosses have got to come down because nobody's buying the crosses. They want to look at that beautiful staircase. And I would just say like, and I can, if you don't have listings for pictures, I'll give you 2 of ours. We actually have 2 pictures in our listing booklet that shows a picture of a house that was actually a house 2 doors down from mine that did not sell. And then it's our pictures of the same stuff, like it's hybrid staging, right? We only brought in probably like plants and some pillows and had the windows cleaned. But with certain really large chairs moved in, moved out. And we asked people what their thoughts are on the difference of the rooms. And then they're like, well, we like this room because it's so much bigger and brighter. And this one, I only see that chair. And we're like, so let me explain to you how these 2 pictures produce very different results. And if you don't have pictures like that, I'm happy to share pictures that we have with you for you to include as an example.
Love that. So one of my favorite stories was one of my actually was my first or second listing, we happened about the same time. And it was a personal friend of mine, and her family is beautiful. And one of her daughters is famous. If I put her picture up, you guys would all know who she is. And so when we initially started having the conversations about selling the house, I got this. That picture's not coming down. I mean, we're talking a picture, we're talking a picture. Okay,
Oil.
was above a door and it was huge. And I knew this particular individual quite well. She considered herself an interior designer. She's got taste, but she's not an interior designer. So I brought in a stager with that exact job. Your job is to tell her what she's not listening to me. And so Hillary went down and I was with her. And so we were going through the house and, you know, she taking the notes and having all of the conversations. And we got to the picture. And the client told Hillary the same thing she told me, that picture's not coming down. And Hillary looks at her, she says, so Margaret tells me you're already under contract on the home that you're buying. Tell me about the seller that lives there. So my seller friend starts going, well, blah, 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 blah. Bill, go get the ladder. Because she's also very private. Right? And she does try and protect the girls. And yet she was determined that picture was gonna stay up there until she realized how much she knew about the family and the children of the house they were buying. And it took that light bulb to go on. And so I actually tell that story with my sellers who wanna push back a little bit and say, we don't want people trying to figure out who you are. We want people to envision them living in the home and where they're putting the Christmas tree. And that kind of helps if you have those stories to be able to get through them. Okay, does that help?
I have one follow-up.
Okay.
How do you approach like improvements that need to be made?
So I'll say, great, you know, I'm gonna send all these contracts to you digitally. This is gonna send everything through email, and then make sure I have the right email address. And I'm also gonna put a list of the basic things that need to happen and kind of I'll line up our timeline. And so this is where we're gonna have a stage, so all these things need to be done. And so I'm gonna have the list of improvements written in there.
Okay.
That's
From
why
the
I just
stager or it looks like
oh,
from the stager or?
From what
looks
I
like-
said, and then I'll say, well, this, you know, this is what I think you need to do, like, you need to change out all the light bulbs. Or put working light bulbs in there, you know, or, and I already know I'm gonna ask to do a couple of things. Fix the tile in the entryway, can you guys fix that? Yeah, okay, great. And then, so the stager will be here, you know, on this date. And so it just depends, and then my stager gives me a list. If they live there. She'll give me a huge list, and I'll say, I know this is gonna be maybe a little overwhelming, but these are the things that are recommended. And then she'll come back before the pictures, we need to help do things. And so I had one client say they could do it, and they would, you know, clear all the stuff. And I scheduled the stager and the photographer on the same day, never have done that ever again. And the stager calls and says, what are you doing right now? And I was like, I'm working, and she, you know, cause I hire a stager to work, so I don't have to work.
Right.
That piece. And she's like, they did nothing. Every counter is covered. And I was like, okay, and then there was a coaching agent too, I was like, what are you doing? I said, do you wanna come with me and do some staging before photos in 2 hours? And we all picked up and left and went to the house and threw stuff in closets. And they were like, okay, you know, my sellers were.
Oh, that's kind.
So, you know, you have to plan and prepare and understand people, when you show up to their house, that's a big clue.
Mhm.
If you magically think they're gonna get their crap together in a week, don't believe it, because you're gonna pay for photos. Your cancellation, I have a 24-hour cancellation, so I will often, if I question Margaret and her abilities, I don't say that. We're gonna come by on Monday, since photos are on Tuesday or whatever, and I'm gonna come by and just, you know, check in with you, am I bringing moving boxes, or am I bringing another present or something? Just so I can check and make sure she's ready, because I can't pay. You can't pay for people. Cause they think it's your fault. Or they, and it becomes your problem, and so you just need to plan and prepare and plan.
So was your question more about bigger improvements or little improvements?
I think both.
Yes, I give them a list, cause I like to see if Margaret's ready to go on the market now, because she wants to be in Arizona and her house looks decent. She might have a couple things, you know, can you grab the tile, or can you, whatever the little things were. If there's big projects and she's not gonna go on the market for a month or two, we talk about those big projects, and I say, this is what I would recommend, you want top dollar. This is what I'm seeing in other properties that you're gonna have done. What you decide to do with those improvements is your own. And we're gonna price the property appropriately at the time of the market that you wanna go on, whether you've done them or not. And so, but you don't get dollar for dollar for those big improvements, you're not getting your kitchen money back.
So I will do that, right, if they've got an older kitchen, like if we go out to Applewood. And they built the house in 1960 and the kitchen cabinets are still there from 1960. They might still be in really good shape because grandma took really good care of them. But the reality is nobody wants those today. So if I've got a seller who's saying, well, God, do I pay somebody to remodel the kitchen or do I not? I will bring them comps for both. And I will say, okay, if you do nothing to your kitchen, right? If you don't invest the money for the kitchen, this is the range I think we would be in if we went on the market today. If you took the time and financial investment to upgrade the kitchen, I believe in today's market, this is what the house would sell for.
Right.
Now you decide if it's worth your time, money, stress, gray hair to make that improvement to get the higher dollar. And my favorite line is, what's more important to you? Being able to say, I sold the house for the most amount of money anybody ever did in my neighborhood, or netting the most amount of money. Because those two things are not necessarily always the same. Because if it's gonna cost me, what's a kitchen these days, Stacy, Luke?
30 grand.
30 grand, if I'm gonna spend 30 grand, get stuck waiting at least another 3 or 4 weeks, best case scenario, on a new
Best
kitchen,
case.
and I'm going to, and I'm only gonna net 20 more, why would I do it? Right, so part of it is that education piece of understanding the differences there. Right,
And that's why I tell them I'm gonna email them later, because there might be things I don't know about, because I'm like, you know, I need to get a little bit more information, and then when I get home, I can email them. And that way I can also have some time to kind of think about what we talked about. And maybe I'll email the property again, so I can make sure I have a good email when I send them those contracts, the to-do list, right?
All of it, you know.
I-
We don't, I mean, you don't have to do anything to your home. It just comes down to price and like where we're gonna price it. So we've had people say, well, I don't know, this other person said I really had to do all these things. I'm like, you don't have to do anything. It just depends on where we're gonna price the home. And what what you're willing to do will affect that. And like you said, it's not always dollar for dollar. So but there are always little things that we can, clean, fresh light bulbs and caulking and, all those little things that are usually in the list, the short list of like,
but if
TV things.
if you sell enough houses, you're going to sell a house full of furniture. You're gonna sell a hoarder house full of crap,
Yeah,
and it will sell.
Oh, yeah.
and it'll
Right?
sell to somebody.
So,
Sold a
again,
house with a basement full of mold last week.
Yeah,
yeah, it's all of those things, right? And so it just comes down to the pricing for the condition and understanding who the buyers are gonna be, and does the seller understand where they're at? You got another question, Karen?
I do, I heard at one point you say, she started asking about, well, what's this gonna cost me? This is when you kind of went into your fee structure, but you said typically 1% for closing costs.
It's not that high.
Is there a typical number? I mean, when it comes down.
So over and above compensation for agents.
Yeah, let's, if you
Yes.
set aside
And
the
it's not
compensation.
1%.
So we're talking about $200 for your paying the title company, right? We're talking about $30 for a tax certificate. We're talking about your owner's extended coverage, and if there's any OEC premium on your owner's extended coverage on your title insurance.
I wish I had a net sheet. That's what I wish I had in there.
Right.
And that would have answered that.
That's what she's talking about with regards to closing.
less than
costs.
that.
Yeah, it's,
And then obviously closing cost means something totally different when it comes to buyers, because they have different closing
Right,
costs.
so seller, you got those small kinds of costs, and then you have your
Title.
listing fee and then buyer.
So she was prepared with the pricing, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, and you just said it, I wish I would have brought a net sheet, right? And so when you go out to those listing consultations and you've got your range, right? You can go to your favorite title company and create an estimated underlined seller's net sheet. And you can put some assumptions in. You can assume, and I always use 60 days from the day I'm meeting with them as the day we're gonna close. So the system will automatically prorate the property taxes. It'll automatically, you put in the data and actually you can do it. Like in this case, she could show me at 6:15, 6:25, and 6:35, here's what my costs would be, here's what my fees would be, and this would be the net And if she knew my payoff on my mortgage, she could put that in there. I don't, because they never know. So I will just always put it without the mortgage in there, and I'll say, this is your net before they pay off your loan.
Where is that sheet?
It's in all your title companies have it. So if you go to the land title website, there's a place where you can create an estimated seller's net sheets. Andrea actually teaches a class on how to do the net sheets, but those are super valuable when that question comes up.
Chicago Title has an app.
Yeah.
You can do a buyer's net, you can do both buyer and seller, they also have marketing material in there. And so, and you can print it out and send it digitally, it looks really good, it's pretty sharp. And so, that's what I generally use, however, you know, if you need exact details, you do need to talk to the title, but you don't need exact details, at that listing appointment. But it would have been safer for me to say 5 to 6% of your purchase price overall. That's realistic, actually, that's realistic, my 1%, I don't want to refer to that.
Well, you said less, actually, you said less than.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be less than.
Rent back from buyer, when that happens, is that paid ahead as part of the closing?
Yes,
Depends on how you structure it, and if there's any costs associated.
You can work, it's negotiable, everything,
Right.
it's negotiable, and you do it at the time that you're working the
But
contract.
your starting point might be in, have it all paid, is there a favorable place to start, I guess is what I would.
usually the rent, usually
The
the
buyer's
rent,
agent or the seller's agent, how are you gonna negotiate that post-close?
Yeah,
And how it's-
The payment of it though, generally, if there is a payment, happens at closing. And it depends on whether or not you decide to have the title company process any sort of payment or security deposit. And under the new rules, you can't charge a security deposit if you don't charge rent. So, I personally don't love post-closing occupancies, so did just get a 60-day one at no cost to my seller on the house we listed this weekend. And the way we're structuring it is $2,000 or $1,000 security deposit and $1,000 rent. And both are refundable to the seller at possession as long as it meets the buyer's acceptance.
Yes.
And I also have a bunch of language in there about what exactly the closing is gonna be, that we're going to do a walkthrough together, both parties, and document anything beforehand, and it's because I just got over another post-closing occupancy where you walk in the house and you're like, oh God, there's moldy plates under the daughter's bed, right? You know that this is gonna be a bit of a shit show with a post-closing occupancy, and fortunately for us, our buyer's agent did them no service by telling them, oh yeah, you need to do a pre-close walkthrough. And then afterwards, like a week after they took possession, they told my clients that they were keeping the security deposit and the rent that was written in the post-closing occupancy as being returned to them. And he said, well, here's all of these things that are wrong. Okay, these were all things that were totally wrong with the house while we were under contract, right? They never had an inspection objection, and then I told them, okay, well, you guys didn't have an inspection objection, can I have a copy of the inspection so I can verify whether any of these things were, long story short, my client's gone.
But it can get.
But it
Well,
can, I don't, it just depending on who your client is, post-closing occupancies can be a real pain in the neck.
yeah, but to answer your question, the rent is paid at the closing.
One where.
As is the security deposit. Now, how the security deposit is handled sometimes is dependent on the lender. So the buyer's lender may require it to be part of the settlement statement. They may require it to reduce the buyer's amount due that they have to bring to the closing table, or they may just have a check happen in between. So every lender treats it differently. So if you're dealing with a post-closing occupancy, you're gonna wanna understand from the title company how the lender's incorporating that, which is why it's so important, guys, that you're looking at those settlement statements before you get to the closing table, regardless of which side you represent. All right, anything else?
I have one more.
Okay?
It's related to when you had made either you or Amanda had said, a lot of your clients offer your listing. Minimum of 2%, but are, we're gonna just go fresh out of the gate with 2% and we're willing to negotiate on the other side. I'm sure they don't come to the table and say, this is how we're gonna do this, this is where you guys start, is that? where you're
So it really depends on the client, like the 2%, these were both multi-million-dollar homes where the client was being a little bit unreasonable, to be honest with you. And they didn't wanna offer anything, so the best that I could get them to even agree to was 2%. But I also write, I have language in there that says that the seller authorizes me to say that they are willing to consider additional compensation based on price and terms. And after hearing you today, I may move to just putting almost nothing in there and then seeing what people present, because frankly, I'm seeing it all over the place and nobody's even calling to ask me anymore what we're offering. They're just, I've seen everything from 2, 2.5, 2.8 to 3.
No,
I've seen it all over the place. I think that anybody who's honestly just outside of first time home buyers, nobody seems to be asking anymore.
I don't think, we don't ask. And we didn't do that many buyers, we didn't represent that many buyers, but we're not asking. We have an agreement with our client about what I charge.
This is what I'm getting
Now,
paid.
I'm pretty, I'll say I'm pretty nice. I'm pretty nice about my compensation. We can't really talk about that, but I'm pretty flexible. And I tell my clients that, however, that's between us. And I don't need to tell anybody else. And if I'm gonna write an offer, you're gonna see it. And then if this is something that comes up and then I have to negotiate, I'll be nice, because I'm gonna be nice for my client, because I work with them. But I'm gonna at least try to hold a good standard high, and then go for it, because I don't know what you're doing, and it's not our job to negotiate the freaking commission. You know what our big issue is? Insurance. I don't really care about I'm gonna get paid.
Yeah, can you get insurance on this property?
Insurance.
Yeah.
And I live in the mountains. We're having problems.
Yeah,
Well, and
big
if
deal.
condos in Denver, you got problems, right?
That is true
Yeah.
too.
Right?
Condos in
So
Denver.
here's a great segue.
Mhm.
You all need to come to team rally on Wednesday, 11 o'clock here. But we are actually, you can zoom in, I might magically get you the link. We are going to have a conversation with an agent who is primarily a buyer's agent. And we are going to focus on how she has the compensation discussion with her buyers. And while this isn't about the amount she gets, she's getting 3% on every deal. And her buyers are making up the differences. And by the way, she's not buying Amanda's luxury houses. She is buying the lowest end houses that we have available. And her clients
are happy to
are happy to pay it. We had her come to a coaching thing earlier this year. The takeaways was amazing, so we're bringing her back and sharing it all with the market center. And put some good juju out there. I am gonna try and get her to be our buyer's agent doing our live buyer consultation next week. Third week, next month, third week. So all I'm
So we
saying.
should all send her a Starbucks gift card? I'll send her
Not
a
yet, I
Starbucks
haven't
gift
talked to her
card.
about that, so don't break the news, right? But all I'm saying is that there's so many different ways, right? And that's why I'm loving this discussion we're having. I'm hoping you guys are getting a lot out of it. So we still got Jody for 7 more minutes. So, anything else? Any other questions for her?
That's great.
Comments?
I wanted to just call it, I loved the creative conversation you had about the basement and about what could have been done there. I'm totally gonna already put that into my vernacular. That way, if I need something, like especially sometimes if there's a home where I'm having trouble finding the opportunities versus the challenges, I'm gonna totally use that. I just, and I loved your 7-step open house process. And we do a lot of those things too, but I've never heard it presented that way. And also, do you you follow it in its like progression, right? You're not like, I'm squirrel, like I'm here. You actually went straight down it and you follow.
And it's easy because you meet people
Yeah.
at the door.
Right.
And then
Do
so you work through it, then they go tour the house.
Do you ever get pushback from the agent?
Oh, totally.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
However, I've gotten so many agents that say, you know, cause they're walking around, they're like, oh, you know, like, oh,
Right.
there's the wells over there, and this, oh, yeah. And so I've only found that the agents who are irritated that I'm there. And I know they whisper to their client, like,
Okay.
yep, And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't say anything. And I'm not there to eavesdrop, although I heard great stuff. I am there to sell this property. I was hired to sell this house. That buyer's agent doesn't know jack. And I know that because I'm a too, and I don't know jack about houses. Like, I wanna see 7 houses. Great.
Well,
Okay,
great.
houses, I can't
I'm
even, I'm trying to study 7 houses, pull all that, right?
And you're driving, and especially for you, you don't know, again, as you said, you don't know where the well is, you don't know where the wellhead is, you don't know where the septic system is, you don't know where the property boundaries are, like, all that stuff.
I at least know to look.
Guilty.
And if I find the well, I know the septic is on this house.
Yeah.
I know some things, and I know at least what to ask. But if I have this, no offense, but like, if I don't recognize that name, somebody's showing our property, and I don't recognize their mountain name, you know. We have a small association, so I'm pretty familiar with the 300 agents, or you know, who they are. And you know, you don't need air conditioning up there, so I don't wanna hear that little bit out of somebody's mouth. And you know, oh, that water, it's from that well, it's probably terrible. Water's better than your water in the city.
Right.
So, but you know, like, yeah, they're gonna ask about what are all those things in the utility room, well, that's what this is. So when we ask our sellers so much stuff, it's annoying. Like, what are your average utility bills? We need to know because you have electric based work, and that's gonna kill you. It's electric based work's the worst. And you know, but what are all these other tanks, and what about this water storage and? you know,
Water storage, water softener, like there's all these different things that, yeah, when I walk into a house that I haven't ever seen before, I'm like, I don't know, what is that? Let me look, hang on, like.
And, you know, and I've said, when I was in your agent, I learned, but I probably said things that were not accurate. Trying to look smart.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just part of it. You know, that happens. You see things and you realize, and then once you get older, you're like, I don't know about this, but I'll find out for you. Yeah. I mean, it's not clear more, you know, I'm not really like trying to put on this big show for people. I'm trying to sell this house and be realistic. 'Cause there's nothing
With
worse than
integrity.
you get an offer and it's because, but I didn't tell them about something. And then it's not until we're under contract and then they find out and then they terminate, and then my seller is sad. I don't want my seller to be sad. I just wanna tell people this is straight up, this is the house. So I don't go straight into, here's the shit you don't know
Yeah.
about the house. But I say, you know, this is what's happening, this is what they did, and this is how efficient it works, and this is what their utility bills. It's like fact based.
Yeah.
Well, and I did like that question too about the basement, cause come on, we all live in our houses, and do we all have things in our houses?
Yeah.
That you're like going, man, next time I got an extra X amount of dollars, I am fixing this piece, and then it never gets fixed, right? And in that house, that basement,
It was awkward.
finished, but it literally was a place where it literally had a bar.
With a
and then
washer
there's
dryer
a
behind it.
Behind washer dryer sitting right, it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and just the way they cut the rooms, like.
It was so weird.
Stacy tried to stage it was a joke.
I go, I'm not staging this, we're gonna put this here, and then hopefully by the time they get to the basement, they're already made the.
They're already in line.
There might have been a yoga ball down there, right?
It was like an exercise area.
Some balls, some towels and 2
The
washers.
other thing I
Thanks.
would have added to what you did. Is I would have asked me what my favorite part of the house was. Because my favorite part of that house, not granted, I've never lived in it. But I know the house, I spent many hours there with my dear little Merle. It was one of those houses that when you went, it was a tri-level with a basement. So when you went up to the main level, the top level where you would expect the bedrooms. You had stairs and a landing in the entire primary suite. And then you went up a small few more stairs, and there were 2 more bedrooms and a full bath. And to me, I'm going, how cool would that be? Like, you'd be close enough to the kids that they're not unnecessarily exactly the same level as you are, right? Or if you had guests that came and you put them up in that 1 bedroom, it created a sense of some separation without being separated by mega floors. And so that probably would have been my answer, but again, another little thing that when you're marketing the property and always wanting to know what's their favorite feature, man, can you imagine putting that in your public comments about how cool this particular element of the house is? Because guess what? The other buyers that are coming in are gonna think so too.
Yeah.
So that was what I'm like, come on, ask me my favorite feature. Come on.
What have you loved about the neighborhood area?
And I did talk about the pool.
Yeah.
And
Not the house,
Not
we
the
didn't
house,
talk about the
yeah.
house, that's
And so
right.
we usually ask that, what do you love, what could you change? Because you're gonna get feedback that people love that same stuff, and that's what they're looking for, that's why someone else might buy it, why you bought it. But then the negative feedback you're gonna get is, that basement's weird.
Uh-huh.
And so, but this is how I'm gonna negate it, I'm gonna say what you said, oh, think about putting in this remodeling, blah, blah, blah. So it's like,
Oh, it's 2:30. That's my alarm telling me to open ask the coach. You guys, thank you to all of you for playing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for coming.
you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. How are you guys doing? We're good.